I think one of the biggest myths that we often hear is that sourcing partners cost more. And that's probably the most, like I said, the biggest misconception. Our clients don't pay more, they actually gain more.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Event Marketing Redefined. I am your host, Matt Kleinrock, CEO of Rockway Exhibits and Events. And today we're going to kind of niche into a specific topic. We are going to talk about hotel and venue sourcing. And I know for a lot of event marketers, this is such a large part of their everyday job. It's an important part of their everyday job. So we're going to talk to an expert, Michael Hudson here, who this is what he and his company does for a living. It's what they do day to day. We're going to debunk some myths about venue sourcing. We are going to talk a little bit about their process, a little bit about, what to look for, what to watch for, and overall just excited to have this conversation. Michael, welcome to the show. Thanks for doing this.
Oh, my pleasure, Matt. Thank you for asking me, and a good day to everyone, all of your listeners and watchers.
I think this is an important conversation because a lot of what's going on in corporate event marketing world is essentially directors of events and event marketers in general are being asked to do more and more and more. And a lot of what they're being asked to do is really more on the sales and marketing side. They are being asked to do things like drive results, develop ROI, engage the customer, but they have an entire bucket of things such as hotel and venue sourcing that are incredibly important parts of the puzzle in the event world. So what I'd love to do, let's just let them get to know you a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your company and specifically what you do, because it is very niche, which I think leads into this discussion well.
Absolutely. It'd be my pleasure, Matt. Yes, as Matt said, my name's Michael Hudson. I'm CEO and co-founder of Site, Search, and Select. We're a New York-based company, but we work on a global scale. And at Site, Search, and Select, we source, secure, and contract hotels and venues globally for our clients' planning and execution of their meetings and events. We had a big milestone this year, as a matter of fact. We started our 31st year of business and we surpassed more than 6,000 meetings and events. So we're really excited about that. We were one of the original pioneers within the venue sourcing arena.
Nice.
So
Very cool.
I think, Matt, it would be helpful for your audience, as you mentioned, some myths or misconceptions, just to clear the playing field out here. I think one of the biggest myths that we often hear is that sourcing partners cost more. And that's probably the most, like I said, the biggest misconception. Our clients don't pay more, they actually gain more by using us. Just to explain how the commission model works within the sourcing intermediary world is it's very similar to if you're selling your apartment or your home. You as the seller, in our case, that would be a hotel. You have a real estate agent or you have a venue sourcing intermediary. These are the parallels that I'm creating. And then you have buyers. So the buyer in our case is our corporate or association or nonprofit customer. So basically, everything being funded by hotel commissions, which we provide a great list of curated, well-vetted venues with some initial pricing and availability based on your agenda, your hot buttons, and some concessions that you would like to see in your contract. So we provide a number of choices for all your criteria. And as you go through the list and figure out which property that you want to use, we can then negotiate that contract. And that's really, once that contract is signed by you, it is turned back over to you. There's no added cost to the client. And the key phrase within that is no added cost. We do have some folks over the years in our business that always thought the commission was added on top of the price that they would be paying if they went directly to the hotel. That's not the case at all. It's just as if they're paying payroll. The hotels are meeting their payroll cost, paying the utilities bill. All rates that are quoted in most cases are the same net as commissional because there's so many intermediaries involved. So that's one myth, that we provide more of a strategic process for you. So it's a win-win. The hotel pays the commission, the client doesn't have to pay for our fees, and you receive the benefit of a very strategic process.
And I think an
Another,
interesting part of
yeah.
that, Michael, like an interesting part is the fact that like the amount of time that it takes directors of events and people at corporate companies to go find venues. It is time consuming. They travel, they go vet them, even the time just looking up city by city, trying to gain an understanding of the details, right? The ins and the outs. Will it work for not just one element, but there's always multiple elements of an event that the hotel has to fit criteria for. So I love that this is a lift that you potentially take off of a director of events, and essentially there is no direct cost to them. So let's go into when you and I originally spoke, we talked about a bunch of there's a whole bunch of myths that you have in this sort of like venue hotel sourcing. So let's run through a few more of them.
Sure, absolutely. Well, another myth that we have is that sourcing is just about sending out RFPs. We really hear that a lot, but Matt, it couldn't really be further from the truth. At Site Search and Select, we're not just a transactional process here. We try to make this as strategic as possible. It's about knowing which properties are the right fit for your group. We like to read between the lines of those proposals. And the negotiated value goes beyond the room rate. We want to look at the total package for you. And the best way to do that is to be able to work with a partner, a sourcing venue partner that really knows relationships, knows the destinations, and knows some key processes in how to book, whether that's here in North America or actually overseas as well.
Michael, how does that work? How do you work with the client, right? Like I'm the director of events. I come to you, say, hey, Michael, gonna throw an event in California. Particularly would love it to be in Southern California. I give you a specific city. Give me a little bit of insight into like what your process with that director of events or your contact person looks like. What are you asking them? What are you curious about? How are you gaining all the information so you can go do the work?
Yeah, absolutely. First thing we ask is which destinations are you considering? Often the client will come back with 2 to 3 different destinations. We don't like to overload our client with oodles and oodles of choices because, quite frankly, we feel it's a waste of time for them. And we also feel that it's a waste of time for our valued hotel partners. Because to be quite honest with you, we work through our national sales offices of all the global hotel brands and our representatives. And quite frankly, something that is a little bit different from maybe some of the online platforms that we do hear feedback from our client is it just goes out to way too many hotels. Well, feedback from hotels is that if a particular global brand is looking in their system and the client is considering, 20 different hotels within a destination, maybe that hotel person we think would be good for the client's program may not put their best foot forward because the net has been casted so wide. So we try to curate the list and only provide enough really clear, vetted, historically known properties, whether that's a global brand, a regional brand, or an independent hotel. So we really try to give as many players a chance to bid on this business so we can actually add value and an experience for both the attendees as well as the client with the venue choice.
What's another good myth for everybody listening here on sourcing?
Absolutely. It's not always about the lowest rate. Sometimes, Matt, you'll get some responses back, some initial availability, and wow, that rate looks really good. But then all of a sudden, you might find with after you look at some hidden costs, there's a number of resort fees that are quite high. There's these urban fees, lots of service charges and things that will really add dollars onto that low rate. So we like to go beyond that. We focus on the total value from concessions to flexibility with the F&B minimums and contract terms and concessions. Sometimes, as I mentioned, those properties that look really good on paper may not be the best. So we really want our clients to make smarter decisions, and we want them to see the full picture.
What are some examples, Michael, of when, the properties that on paper look the best, but they're really not? I mean, what are some of the devil in the detail elements there?
Yeah, as I mentioned, resort fees are probably top on the list for that, or extra service charges or additional labor charges. Part of the process, Matt, that when we start the RFP, that also builds on your former question, is the fact that, there's a balance between receiving the information back from the hotels in a timely manner and be able to send out to the client. We don't want to overload the client with just tremendous amounts of data. So our availability tool, which we had created for us by a certified woman-owned business here in New York, we have really felt that we've struck the balance between a quick turnaround with our hotel partners and our clients having to basically look on several different tabs. So we have an availability tab. We have tabs that just looks at the food and beverage space and pricing, the meeting space and pricing. And we have what we call an executive tab. That's that tab that if they want to use that to show their stakeholder, it's minimum for food and beverage, the rate, the distance from the airport, just that 30,000 foot view. But really, one of the key elements that we like to present to our clients is we have a list of concessions that we have for every program. But we also, in gathering that information from our client, we find out some customized types of concessions that are really specific to their organization or to this particular program. And you can set that concessions tab from Hotel A to Hotel B to Hotel C. And we can go down that list. We have yes, no, or counteroffer. And if you've got a lot of no's running down that list, I always tell the client, after you look at what the initial pricing is, take a look at that concessions tab, because that will tell you which hotel or resort or venue wants your business versus they don't want your business. If you see a lot of no's in there, you're being set up for a property that likely may not be able to be as flexible with their negotiation. So that's a key indicator moving on.
If you were giving some advice to like a new corporate event marketer, right? Young person in their 20s, just starting out, being handed responsibility to run an executive retreat or running a sales conference. And, what kind of just standard advice would you be giving them about selecting hotels and finding venues and what to look for? And
absolutely. Well, the first point that I would talk to them about is, you don't have to feel that you have help, you have resources to help you. And a venue sourcing company can help you. You're not going to lose control if you work with a sourcing partner. It's exactly up. Our clients stay fully in control. We just give them better data and stronger options to make their decisions. We're pretty much an extension on their team, not a replacement. And what we always like to tell our clients is if you outsource the venue sourcing, that is going to free up your time because we know you wear many different hats within your role. This will give you much more time to concentrate on the planning, the execution, the production, the marketing, all kinds of other areas of your responsibilities. So we feel that, we can really help them with giving them really vetted venue choices and really solid partners that we've generated over 30 years in business. And we have those relationships all over the world for them. So we really feel that's a good first point, that you're not going to lose control. Let us help you help your team.
What if this is their role at the company? They can't outsource it. The company's like, hey, we want you handling it. They're new, and you're just giving advice. You're just saying, hey, look, I've been doing this for 30 years. Here's some things when I'm looking at a venue, what I'm considering, what I'm looking for, what I'm looking for in the contract, what I'm what are some tips, tricks, and kind of get arounds for people?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we do come across that obstacle of they're new and their boss really doesn't understand how the venue sourcing, in industry really works, and they really want, oh, that's what we pay you for, we absolutely put on our mentor hat and we help them walk through the process of really what we do in hopes that we'll be able to be helpful to them and have a collaborative business engagement in the future. But I also want to say, well, if this is not the right opportunity, some really good key areas that we can help you in and your team is that all of a sudden you got that NTth meeting on your desk and you just simply don't have time. We can help with those overflow situations. And, we talk to them. If you're unfamiliar with a location, whether that's Santa Fe, New Mexico, or it's Barcelona, Spain, we have those relationships. So if you're unfamiliar with a destination, that might be a good opportunity to outsource because you'll get, an amazing return with locations and venues. And the other point that we also talk to clients, if you have an internal client, this is like a centralized meeting planning department where they're all working with business units. If you're trying to manage a team and you're trying to manage your volume of meetings, if you have an internal client that needs a little bit more hands-on or a little bit more white glove, that is more than it's going to take you as the event planner out of your workflow too much, that's something to outsource to a venue finding company as well, because we are really going to treat them with kid gloves. And you as the meeting planner are going to look like a star.
Michael, what's your take on, so one of the things I think is interesting about venue sourcing and just hotels in general is, I'm fortunate. I get to talk to a lot of event marketers and director of events between our clients and our podcast guests. And one of the things I've continually heard is that the pricing at hotels has dramatically gone up post-COVID. The last 3-4 years, the pricing has gone up and people feel as if they're trying to get back from COVID or something like that. But, it's 2025. COVID was 5 years ago, right? So 4.5, whatever. But what's your take? I mean, because you've been doing this a long time. So what have you seen in terms of like hotel rates, the fees for the venues, the overall pricing, packaging for food and beverage, and just everything that goes into these contracts? What's your take on kind of the state of it right now?
Yeah, as you mentioned, the COVID-19 pandemic, it's not far enough in our rearview mirror. We're still, sensing that and, functioning with results coming out of that period in the world's history here. But I do agree with you, prices are higher. And availability coming right out of the COVID-19 pandemic, it was like you threw open the doors and everybody that hasn't been out of the room wanted to go to a hotel and meet. So there was very limited availability. You really had to book far out. The pricing was high. It has leveled off to a degree, but I still feel that we're in a seller's market. And there are a lot more fees that I feel that are involved. I know one thing that has come up recently is a number of the national brands, when you're dining at a hotel restaurant that isn't part of, not scheduled food and beverage in the meeting space, but actually going and taking your breakfast or having drinks or dinner in the restaurant when it's not part of the meeting, is they're charging you 20% gratuity automatically. And that's new. So that's something that I've seen within the last 12 months. I was just at a conference in Southern California last month. And when we had as an attendee, we sit on the webinar to know what's going on with the program, what we need to do, et cetera, et cetera. That was one of the points is if you're eating at the restaurant, you're going to be charged 20% gratuity. It's mandatory. So you have to worry about that. And some of those fees can be negotiable, and some of those fees cannot be negotiable.
Yeah.
So you really have to look at your budget, and you might have to go back to your budget, and you might actually have to alter your program, your agenda to compensate for that. So there's a lot of additional concerns. And I think by providing the full detailed information on our availability report and having those conversations with partners, we can help bridge those issues with pricing and things like that for our clients, even before they make their final decision.
Michael, tell me a little bit about sustainability, accessibility, inclusion, right? As a part of the sourcing conversation, right? At events, at hotels, and what you all are doing in that space to help shape that.
Yeah, absolutely. We have, in terms of sustainability metrics and things like that, our clients are really more and more, instead of a separate checked box, they're actually becoming much more educated, working with their corporate sustainability business units and really trying to understand what the, carbon neutral hotels or venues that they could use. What's that footprint for their own program? And
Yeah.
how is that really falling in and aligning with their corporate sustainability goals? So that's really interesting from our side. It's no longer a side note, it's really a sourcing requirement.
Yeah.
So that's something that we know about sustainability and social impacting sourcing that we've incorporated in. Also, Matt, you talked about accessibility. You
Yeah.
know, accessibility and inclusive design are definitely gaining tractions in RFPs worldwide. One thing that I want to tell you about our company is we're certified as disability owned, whether it's seen or unseen with our leadership. So
Mhm.
we're part of that whole accessibility and inclusive design
Yeah.
world. That's what really excites us. Our clients, they want venues that reflect their values and the diversity of their teams and their attendees. So it's really part of the sourcing
Yeah, that's what I was going to
process.
ask. How much of a conversation is that with your corporate clients, with your nonprofits, when they're coming to you, where they're asking you to kind of step in those three lanes, right? In the sustainability, in accessibility, in inclusion? Because I know it has taken much more of front row, front and center, right? When costs are high, it typically takes a back seat, unfortunately. And then when things sort of get back to normal, it becomes a little bit more of an initiative via companies. But I know from a pure event standpoint, inclusivity for sure, in this concept of just understanding how different everybody is and that it's not one size fits all, even up to the simplicity now where people are talking more about not every event has to be a drinking event happy hour because some people don't drink. Now that's, and to me, small on the scale of inclusivity for sure, because there's far severer degrees. But the fact that people are even talking about those things, I think events is a place where because you're driving large numbers of people 50, 100, 250, 1,000, 3,000, 5,000, these things are getting factored more and more. So do you have a lot of your clients with any specific requests or things that they're asking or things that they're wanting to be considered?
Wow, this is really timely, Matt, because as soon as this podcast is over, I'm dropping a post that I just wrote from attending the Disability In National Conference in Orlando a couple of
Okay.
months ago. And it's all about talking to the event planner on how they plan a major 3,000 person event for accessibility and inclusivity. This could be as much as every step of the journey from the airport all the way through the hotel. Every area of the hotel, is it accessible? How are they going to be getting up and down floors? They are really looking at ways to accommodate people with hearing and vision disabilities.
Yeah.
They also, I was at this conference and something that I learned where they have pet watering stations and relief stations built throughout the entire meeting
Yeah.
space outside areas. They put translators in every single general session room, every single food function, and they place them within hallways during coffee breaks. So
Hmm.
if people need to connect, they have those resources. I mean, disability, and of course, that's their whole, mission is to advance people in the workplace with seen and unseen disabilities. But stay tuned for that. I mean, that's an
Yeah. Awesome.
entire post, but
We'll
I
look
can
for it.
certainly, yeah, look for that. But there are a number of different ways that you can accommodate these, and also neuro inclusive. If somebody is really reacting to the lighting, the sound, we have safe spaces that can be, that they can just go into those rooms
Yep.
and just take the stress off and relax for a while.
Gotcha. You said in the beginning that you've sourced over 6,000 venues and sites, and so I'm just wondering, you've done it internationally, you've done it nationally. You've obviously had different situations and like these kind of real life stories of things that have happened. And I know event planners and marketers love a good crisis and love a good, workaround. So would
Right.
love a story from you if you have one, a short one that just kind of,
Yeah,
we can relate
absolutely.
to.
Yeah, absolutely. One of our clients in the healthcare industry, a number of years ago, we were planning for a meeting in Southern Europe. Our attendees, it was a very high level pharmaceutical meeting. Only the 75 of the highest executives were going to be in attendance of this program. So everything was fine. It was moving along. People were beginning to go out to the airport. And then there was a bombing in that
Mm.
city. So they closed down the airport, the train stations, all transportation was closed up. Well, our client came back to us saying, we can't get to our hotel, but we need to have this meeting. And it was a regional meeting within, Europe and the Middle East. So it wasn't a
Yeah.
global meeting. So that made it a little bit easier, but we could really do this as well for a global meeting if we had to. But they said, we really need to rely on us to find a new location in a safer location, what is considered safer location within
Yeah.
Europe. And we put something together in Scandinavia, in Stockholm, with them.
Mhm.
They were sitting in their meeting, starting their meeting 36 hours later.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah, so I think the moral of that story that we take to is if your clients have the trust in you as a trusted partner,
Yeah.
this is where any of the partners can really shine.
Yeah.
And that's because of our relationships all throughout the world, our history. We know about how people move and travel. And we
Yeah.
just know that we knew in that case, we need to make this Sweden. And
Yeah.
it was a successful meeting.
Events, the last minute decision making, the shifts, the moves, the things that have to happen on the fly, whether it's a trade show, whether it's an event, whether it's an activation, it doesn't matter. In person, real live moves quick, and you have to be able to be nimble. You have to have a plan B, plan C. You have to have good people on your team so they can kind of adjust and adapt and make sure things happen.
Yeah, and if
You
I
know,
could just say to that, Matt, also being able to pivot and to be
yeah,
nimble, that's a great segue for working with small businesses
yeah,
because they don't have that overhead and they don't
the red
have
tape,
that
yeah,
corporate structure that if you need something fast, we're a small business and that's something that we discuss with our clients routinely is we can shift on a moment's notice.
yeah.
It's what we can do because we're nimble and because we're a small
Nice.
business.
Michael, this was a great conversation. A lot of value learning about venue sourcing and kind of your process and what you all do and the way you view it and look at it. Appreciate your time. Where is the best place people to connect with you or find you? Is LinkedIn good? Where are you at?
LinkedIn is good. Michael Hudson, Site Search and Select.
Okay.
Our website is www.site searchselect.com.
Awesome.
Sitesearchselect.com. So
Awesome.
we are there. We are everywhere, Matt.
Nice. Well, I appreciate you doing this, Michael. It's good to talk to you. I know we got connected from Sharissa, my vice president of operations, who had met you at an event, really liked you, kind of liked the work that you all were doing. And we said, you know what? Let's talk some venue. Let's talk some hotel here. So thanks for doing this today. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Matt. Great to be with you. Have a great rest of your day.
You too, man. Thank you.